From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. Keep your blaster handy, the West is a dangerous place. Fight to survive as men turn to monsters and the dead rise on the Wild West Exodus Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Weekender. I am joined, hopefully for another epic show, by Warren and John.
Hello.
I'm Lloyd, by the way. And we're going to talk gaming, all sorts of tabletop gaming, as we do every week here on Beasts of War.
Tons of gaming. Tons of gaming.
What are we doing first, fellas?
Well, we've had an amazing week, okay? The big highlight of the week was obviously X-Wing. We created this awesome Endor table, okay?
Did we what?
We'll be talking about that later in the show, but I also just wanted to thank AJ. We've been recording a bunch of 40k content. So we actually have, at this point in time, a themed week in the can and a themed weekend in the can, exclusive kind of backstage exclusive themed weekend. So the themed weeks, what we're doing is we're just picking armies that we like. So we're not necessarily trying to keep up with the release schedule or anything like that. So we've went back and we've actually done a themed week about Mechanicus. So it's our first kind of foray back into serious 40k content. I've had a blast recording it with AJ. He is so much fun.
Well, are we allowed to say about anything else, or are we keeping that all under wraps?
Well,
what the other thing?
I'm going to keep what the other thing is under wraps, but we've this other kind of thing. So we're going to themed weeks every now and again, and then maybe on a slightly more regular basis, maybe doing what we're called themed weekends. But those themed weekends are looking at maybe slightly more obscure aspects of 40k. And they are exclusive to our backstage members. And backstage members are actually going to be able to shape the direction that a lot of that takes. So we just now need to pick what are we going to do first? Are we going to do the themed week first?
Yeah.
Where there's a bunch of stuff for front stage and some stuff for backstage. Or whether we hold that and do the themed weekend first, which goes out just exclusively to backstage. So that's all that's left for us to decide. And then we have some other stuff planned with AJ. But it's been so much fun.
Which is going to be cool. We've had AJ on the Weekender, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Top bloke, and it'd be nice to start getting his content out to you guys. I'm sure you guys will love it once he gets in there onto your screens. I think you'll just warm to him.
He is such a lovely guy, and he's so much fun to be around. And this is what I've really enjoyed the 40k content with AJ, because AJ is so into the background of 40k as well, and we explore all kinds of things, whether Space Marines have willies and stuff like that there. So I think so it's all kinds of stuff that the important cutting-edge journalistic questions on stuff that's 40k related, it's got to be asked.
He said asked.
so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Now, in terms of actual battle reports and stuff like that, we're exploring some ideas on battles. We won't always be able to do battle reports linked to either themed weekends or themed weeks, because we want to talk about all armies. So there'll be armies that we talk about, we just don't have the models for them to be able to do a battle report linked to that. So yeah. I don't want to set the expectations that we're going to be doing, battle reports linked to all of the themed weeks. So most of it is, it's a real analysis of the actual armies and things like that there, and just really getting to grips with it, both for new players and for people that have maybe had the army for a while and or just they want to get back to it or again.
It would probably be unfair to try and link them all to battle reports and stuff, because it would limit our options.
Yeah,
and then you guys at home wouldn't get to see as much stuff.
I want to explore loads and loads of stuff, because it's just been so much fun. I don't want to limit our options.
Is there anything else before I move John on to the news?
No. What have we got news-wise, Mr. John?
Well, it's Team Yankee again.
Right, hey?
More Team Yankee. The last previews that came out were for the unit cards for the air support.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, if you have images.
Let me see what we've got here. So, Team Yankee-wise,
we have the A-10 Warthog and the Mi-24 HIND. Now, we had seen these cards before, sorta. We knew they were coming in some of the model previews.
Yes.
But now we're getting a look at the unit cards and what these things can actually do. And as is awesomely laid out there, the Warthog has the Gale 8 30mm Gatling.
Oh.
Which makes every American player in the world very happy.
And it's called anti-helicopter. It's got the anti-helicopter special rule in there.
Yeah.
So that suggests to me that we're going to be seeing, you know, I'll call them dogfights for want of a better word, but, you know, air support dealing with other air support.
Helicopter versus A-10 is a very one-sided fight, I would assume. Because the A-10 will come in and go...
It depends on the helicopter, though, because if you're going with this bad boy here, the Mi-24 Hind, it has a 12.7mm Yak-B Gatling gun.
Which
if
is
you bring
small,
that one up for them to see.
Which is small compared to the A-10's Gatling.
Well, the other thing is it has spiral missiles, 86 spiral missiles, guided and heat. Now, I wonder if guided missiles can hit other things in the air. So
yeah, because that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Which one's the guided missile? The spiral missile?
Yeah.
Because it's got a 50cm or 20-inch or 50cm range.
Yeah.
Whereas your A-10
has only a 20cm range
with its Gatling gun, and the other thing, the Maverick missile, is air to ground,
which has a 36,
and the cluster bombs air to ground.
Yeah.
So actually, your Hind can shoot at your Warthog over further away.
Possibly.
By the looks of it.
Well, you know, we're just waiting for the rules now. You know, it's like, oh, I've been enjoying checking out the Breakthrough Assault site. Those guys have been getting some little previews and stuff like that, doing a load of stuff on it. They're great guys over there. And I just I'm so excited for the Team Yankee boot camp that we're doing. I got contacted by Battlefront in New Zealand, and what they're going to do is, we're, as well as us doing the whole live blog of the Team Yankee boot camp, they're also looking at setting up some other events all around the world, all to coincide with the boot camp.
That's cool, isn't it?
That is cool.
And we're all going to collectively run big weekend. So there could be a big weekend happening at the HQ in Battlefront to coincide with what we're doing on the boot camp.
What you're saying is, Beasts of War has actually started the Cold War.
Yes, yes,
we have turned the Cold War hot.
we get to kick it off. We are David Hasselhoff, but gone wrong. So rather than get David Hasselhoff actually bringing down the Berlin Wall,
he's hopping over it.
We've sung the wrong song or something on the night, you know, and it's just kicked the whole thing off. How cool is that? You know, so I also have the details of the packs that our guests to the boot camp are going to get, but I'm going to hold that off and maybe talk about that in XLBS. But can I pick out some interesting stuff?
Do you
on
want
this?
to go full screen or?
Yeah, go full screen. Some of my favorite things on this is you'll see that the Hind. No, actually, I'll start with the Warthog. The Warthog has a CBU-52 cluster bomb, okay? And it's called Salvo, and it's one shot. So one shot means that the cluster bombs can only fire once per game. Now, what I want to find out is they come in wings, basically, or flights, as they call them. Yeah. So for 20 points, you can get 4 A-10 Warthogs, right? I would imagine that's 4 cluster bombs.
You would hope so.
Oh, absolutely, I hope so. But I wonder...
Because they've got a cluster bomb each.
Yeah, they've got to have. Now, what I wonder is, will Salvo be like the big templates that we saw in Flames of War Vietnam?
Where the name palming stuff,
it was devastating. They had templates the size of pizza boxes, Lloyd, in Flames of War Vietnam. So I'm wondering, are we going to see something like that under the Salvo rule? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
No, I'm going to interject then with a couple of things I've just noticed, and I think you just noticed as well. On the Hind.
Yeah, do you want to bring it up?
Yeah.
It's a flight of 6 for 15 points.
I was just thinking that as well. I was looking at that going, 6 of them for 15 points. I don't know what the points is like in this game, but that sounds amazing.
Doesn't it feel like something that's geared up to run from a small skirmish to a huge game?
Yes, it does feel like it's very scalable, doesn't it? It's...
My goodness, Rambo, he only had to deal with one of them.
And it wasn't even a real Hind. It wasn't even a real Hind. It was some other helicopter that they
Puma
that they put
really
put plywood on it to make it look like a Hind. So yeah, there's some great rules in here, like guided and
Heat
heat.
is my favorite rule.
Yeah, target armor is not increased for range over 16 inches, affected by BDD. You know, I can only imagine what that is, you know, and where that's going. What is ERA armor?
Era armor. Era is it's a composite type tank armor.
Right.
Which is like what we're using at the minute, which is called Chobham, which is on there as well.
Uh-huh.
So BDD, Chobham, and Era armor are the 3 different types of main battle tank armor.
Okay.
Well, which one are we looking at here? Which one has this?
Both of them have.
Well, it's not that they have it, but it's that it affects.
It's for dealing with it.
Or it's not affected by that particular type.
Yeah.
Of
the anti-tank
classification of armor.
missiles they're firing can defeat that stuff.
Yeah, I see it there on the sheet,
one of the cool things about guided, for example, is there's no to-hit penalty for range over 16 inches, and it cannot hit infantry unless they are stationary in bulletproof cover. That suggests to me it's bunker busters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to be so cool. The other thing is, some of these, the Maverick missiles, okay, have a rule called brutal.
No, I like this brutal rule.
And the brutal rule is infantry and unarmored tank teams have to re-roll their successful saves. Oh. You're all gonna die!
You know how disappointing is that? You've rolled I've saved loads. Oh wait.
Brutal.
Oh, we're all dead. Oh.
So yeah, it is all looking very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a piece of news for you now. Okay.
Yep.
I have this week we learned about Crescent Root Studios, okay, who have brought out a new kind of industrial terrain, okay, that is kind of Victorian and Edwardian in its look. Have a look at this, all pre-painted and pre-assembled.
Really nice.
It is cool looking stuff.
Yeah. Now, let me bring up a picture of the actual building itself. I think this is rather sweet looking stuff. Now, it is laser cut.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the material is going to be the same kind of HDF and stuff we're used to.
Just before you move on past the laser cut, I was looking at it. It took me for a while to look at it and go, is it laser cut? Is it not? Because normally when you get laser cut terrain, you can see like plugs and stuff.
Yeah.
They've done a good job of hiding the actual joints and things, but I suspect the joints are all.
Because God forbid we have any plugs or whatever on our terrain. You know?
So you can see my next example was like that. But the keystones and stuff seem to be where all the joints are and stuff. It's cool the way they've done it up, and this comes painted like this, does it?
Yep, it comes assembled and painted. Now let me show you one other picture here that just has me utterly sold. It also comes with you can get this kind of courtyard type thing, okay?
Yeah.
With these little outhouses. Now, the courtyard breaks up, so you can actually you can see here that's looking into the courtyard with the big building on it. And I just got to say, I can't look at this without thinking about the Bash Street kids from the Beano. I just want to. As soon as I saw it, Lloyd, all I wanted to create was there was a game on the Spectrum years and years ago. I think it was called School Days or something school. Anyway, later on there was a version that came out. Do you know the guys Rockstar that they created a game called Bully, if you remember? Okay, but this was way back. And it was basically, you were at school and you had a catapult and stuff like that there, and you were just causing mischief at school. We could so get a game like that on something like this, where you're running around and your objectives is to create mischief, you know, and to wind up the teachers and things like that there, and generally just be a scallywag.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's it. I'm going to write the game. I'm going to call it Scallywags.
Yeah. So it says here it's Victorian and Edwardian era.
Yeah,
so
I can't tell the difference if I'm being honest.
It's
all red brick to me.
Good for historical pulp and steampunk.
School games.
And school games.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's a Civil War game. I think this could probably work for. I can't quite remember the name. It's something like a very British affair or something. It's like a Weird World War One, but it's like a British Civil War type thing. I think this probably could work for that, couldn't it?
If it's World War One, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then,
Anything from the 1800s on, it's going to be fine.
and then what, like games like what's that game from Westwind?
Empire of the Dead,
Would it work for that?
absolutely.
Be good for
Anything
that.
from the 1800s on, Lloyd, it's going to work.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to draw out some examples rather than 1800s on.
Well, if we're going to sit here and try and name every game from the 1800s on, there are dozens. There are absolutely dozens. I just can't think of any right now. There is one other aspect to this that's worth discussing, and that's the fact that it would work beautifully if you got the right scaled model rail. I think it'd make great train stations too.
It would. I like the
So-
fact that they've done paving and stuff. If we go back to that,
Yeah.
because buildings are great, but it really annoys me when you have to sit and go, I have to create some sort of paving now to set them on.
Yeah.
I'm really lazy that way. I'd love to just buy the paving and plop it down, because I've had a little gripe on the show a few weeks back or months back about there isn't enough road systems and stuff.
There's not
especially
really.
for 28 mil.
Yeah, there's not really. I wish there were more as well. I really do. Anyway, that's my piece of news. So back over to you.
Really? Back over to me?
Well, you can take it away, John.
I'll certainly try. White Dragon
Yeah.
are finishing off after one of their Kickstarters finished and got all funded. The stuff's going out to the backers for the 15mm sci-fi range.
Yeah.
You've got to see this.
This is like a sickening story, because you'd be looking at it going, I didn't back that.
I didn't back that.
When you see this stuff.
This stuff
So
is
this is from the
awesome.
team behind Shattered Void. Okay. Now we have seen some of
Yeah.
Shattered Void's little spacecraft. They came into the studio
Yeah.
about a year ago, and they were beautiful, beautiful resin pieces.
Because we've bumped into them quite a few times now at Salute, and Warren's just mentioned the resin, but the resin with really sharp details again.
Yes,
know.
it's very, very well made resin pieces.
So
And just look.
we're pretty sure this is going to be really good stuff. I think we have some other pictures we can bring
Yeah,
up.
well, this is their 15mm Marine Tactical Unit, I believe it is what the MTU stands for. And you get infantry, you get the Talos exosuit, you get the Recon mech, you get the Proteus mech, and you get the Fiddler mech. So I just want to take you through some of the kind of mechs and stuff there. Now, the art direction might be a little bit Marmite. You know, you're either going to be into it or you're not. But in terms of the actual sculpts and the resin quality, you know, there's nothing really to fault there, is there? But take a look at this. This is the X4 MBT. What a beautiful vehicle that is. I just, you know, 15mm sci-fi. I can't really think of any other 15mm sci-fi on the market at the moment.
Not particularly, no.
You know, there's
well,
there's-
Dropstone's going to be 10.
Yeah, the stuff from Critical Mass, is it 6mm? You know, so it's Critical Mass itself I think might be 6mm. It may be 15mm. I can't just remember off the top of my head, but you know that is.
I'm digging it.
Lovely.
I'm digging it, and I'm one of these people kicking myself going, why didn't I jump in on that? I really, really like the look of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know someone who is a fan of this, Jake Thornton.
Yeah?
Jake Thornton is a fan of this and got in on this Kickstarter. Was talking to me about it recently, saying how interested he is in it, and you know, it's he's very impressed with this. So yeah, so the guys over at Shattered Void or White Dragon, you've got a fan there with Jake Thornton. So
Well, that's good from a gameplay point of view, because Jake, you know, writing games day in, day out, he isn't going to turn around and say he likes something that doesn't play very well. At least you would assume not. He's not looking at the miniatures and just being carried away. He probably looks at the game and goes, there's meat and bones to this game too.
no, and Jake's a very forthright character. I've got to say, you know, Jake will speak his mind on something. So if he likes it, you know, he does like it. You know, so it's something I enjoy about the conversations with Jake is he's very direct. So it's and if he doesn't like something, he will tell you. So.
Yeah.
So that for me definitely piqued my interest even further in the game itself. So
Okay, and one last bit of news
yes, a very quick one.
is Gale Force 9 are moving forward on their Doctor Who game.
Yeah, we're starting to see the press releases coming out of the BBC now. So all I have for you at the moment is the fact that it is a Doctor Who game.
Yeah.
I've heard rumblings that multiple Doctors will all be playable, and every player will be able to pick a Doctor and play as that Doctor as you are doing whatever the Doctor does. I'm hoping that we can start to see stuff coming out of Gale Force 9 shortly, but we know that they're going to have all them kind of licensing hurdles and stuff like that to go from. So
why has it jumped in the news? It's jumped in the news, what? Because there's basically a
yes, if you want, they now have the microsite up for it. So if
Yeah.
you want to be kind of kept informed of what's happening, you can head on over to that microsite and drop your email address and stuff in there, and then be among the first to know whenever something happens or whenever it's. I would imagine they'll keep you updated on little news releases on the run up to it.
Cool.
But it's looking good. I have heard that there are some serious Whovians within. What's a Whovian?
Doctor Who.
A doctor. Well, it's more like a doctor.
Is that what they refer themselves as?
Whovians,
Because I
yeah.
thought of Whoville when you said that. I was like, what does he mean? What's he talking about? Whoville?
Oh, you thought of like the Grinch or
Yes.
something, did you? The Hoobs. It's
Horton seen a Who.
no, Whovians are Doctor Who fans, So the collective of a Doctor Who fans is not a gaggle; it's a Whovians, But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's I like me a little bit of Doctor Who, so especially whenever. I can't tell one Doctor from the other. I got to apologize because the last time I was talking Doctor Who, we were talking about how I said it was Tom Baker took on Candyman, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Do you know
Tom.
who it was?
Yeah, it's the. I know who it was in my mind, but I can't remember his name. He was like he's a little quirky sort of actor.
Danny DeVito.
No, it's not Danny DeVito.
Sylvester McCoy
That's
is
the
the
one.
name you're looking for. Yes, it was Sylvester McCoy's character, who was, I believe, the Doctor after Tom Baker. I'm pretty sure it was. I think Tom regenerated into Sylvester McCoy. You would think. I remember it so clearly because it terrified me at the time. Whenever Tom Baker finally died as the Doctor. And I was tiny at the time, and I was watching the TV, and Doctor Who was really actually scary back then. Mm-hmm. And then it was just the face kind of faded in and out. And
I don't think Doctor Who was scary. I think it was just the fact you were younger. It's supposed to be scarier now, is it not?
Really?
You're just older people. You're just older now.
no,
Well, now they've got statues that come to life in churches and try to kill you.
well, yes, that's quite a while ago now, Lloyd.
Okay, they've got aliens that suck your brains out through a straw or something.
That's Starship Troopers.
yeah.
They do have aliens that face huggers that basically dissolve your brain.
That's Alien.
That's
no,
lovely.
they do. I'm telling you, they do.
That's lovely. Anyway, so good news there for any of the Whovians among us, because I reckon I've got high hopes for this game. I have definitely got high hopes for it. So fingers
Perfect.
crossed, we're going to get a good one.
Right, so we're going to tell you about some hubs, and then we're going to be back to continue the show.
Venture into the dangerous dungeons of myth as a mighty hero and stand against the darkness. Visit the Myth Hub on beastsofwar.com and begin your story. It's time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about some X-Wing stuff we mentioned at the start of the show. We've had a brilliant week of crack actually in here, working on some X-Wing.
It's been an amazing week for Star Wars fans all over the world. This has probably been the ultimate week for Star Wars fans all around the world, actually. Not just because we did our X-Wing table, but because this week scientists announced that they may well have found evidence that Star Wars is in fact factual, not fiction.
I know where you're going with this, but this is the loosest connection ever.
No, I just want to talk about it, so I needed to find a way to fit it in.
So he's putting on his conspiracy theory hat.
No, they've discovered something. There's a star, right?
You just spit it out, ask people out there, do they know what it is, and then explain it if they don't. Because then everyone at home going, I know.
Right, do you know what it is? No,
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain. They've discovered a star, right? You know the Kepler telescope. It's a space telescope, right?
Yes.
And they've been using it to discover exoplanets. That's a planet that isn't part of our solar system, so hence exo. Okay, right. So what?
Yes, Professor Patronizing.
The way they do this is that they watch stars, for a very, 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 very long time. Then, what they're looking for is minuscule dips in the light as the planets cross in front of the stars, dipping the actual light that reaches us.
Yeah.
Now, the actual dip in light is minuscule, less than 1% most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they've discovered a star that's 1,480 light years away. Okay?
That's a long ways away.
Well, that is a light can travel at 300,000 miles per second or something like that. So it's a very, 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 very long way away.
That light has come from us, to us, from a
It has taken 1,480 years for that light to reach us.
Yeah, so it's come from a galaxy a long
far
away.
Far, far away.
Yeah. Trying to get there, like, how is it set in the movie?
You idiot. Anyway, so it has come from a galaxy far, far away. Because I believe our galaxy not only like 100 light years or something across? So it most likely is from another galaxy, okay? I can't be sure. I can't remember. Anyway.
It's way bigger than that. Pretty sure it's way bigger.
Let me sum this up for you. There's a star somewhere,
Yeah.
and there's not as much light coming out of this star as there should be.
No, wait. It gets better, right? It gets better. Stop ruining this, right? So the star is called KIC 8462852, just in case you feel like looking this up, okay?
Is that a Kickstarter
No.
code?
It has produced a series of bizarre light fluctuations, which the team cannot explain. So whereas a normal planet, even a Jupiter-sized planet, going across a front of a star will cause a dip in light of about 1%, okay? Now remember, if a planet gets much bigger than Jupiter, it'll actually turn into a star, okay?
Shut up, it doesn't turn into a star.
Yeah. Yeah, if a planet, if the accretion, if it collects enough volume of material, it'll turn into a star.
I think you're talking dog's doo-doo there.
What do you think a brown star is? A brown star. Stop it! Stop it! A brown star is a star that is kind of like not big enough to be a big bright star, but is much bigger than. But you know, is not a planet. It is a star. It has a fusion reaction going on there, but the fusion reaction is not as intense.
Should you not be doing your Patrick Murrick's impressions by now?
Well, when you get the star. Anyway, so this light fluctuation is 22%. Okay?
Well, that's quite big, isn't it?
Now, this is enormous. This is unheard of. Okay? This is utterly baffling. So there are some options, right?
Dust on the lens.
They've checked all of the machinery, and the machinery is all well oiled. It's WD-40, that's all working properly. The results are real. So it is actually results they're seeing. It's not errors or erroneous data.
Right.
Now, it could be, for example, if two planets smashed into each other and created a huge debris field, okay, that would be enough to potentially block out maybe 20% of the sunlight, you know, as it rotated in front.
Cool, problem solved.
But it's not that.
Well, how do you know it's not that? How do they know it's not that?
It's not that because that would trap heat, and the infrared signature of it would be very different. But there is no increased infrared signature, so it's not that. Isn't this brilliant? You see? I'm getting you. The other thing about it is it's not regular. A planet going around a star will have pretty much a regular, even if it's on an elliptical orbit, it'll still have a regular pattern to it. This is quite irregular, and they can tell that whatever it is that's passing in front of the planet is also an irregular shape, because the dip kind of it gets dark, then goes up a bit, then gets dark again, then goes up a bit, and then gets dark again. So what I think that they've detected is they need to measure that and kind of plot it out like this here, and I reckon you'll get the outline of a Star Destroyer and a Death Star going across at the same time. Actually, there is talk about the remote possibility of it being a partially constructed Dyson sphere. Do you know what a Dyson sphere is?
No.
Suck stuff up off the floor.
It's not a Hoover.
It's that ball joint that we.
There's a guy, a very famous scientist called Freeman Dyson. okay?
Right.
And he postulated, I read about this years ago in a wonderful book by Colin, what's his name? Colin Wilson, called The Directory of Possibilities. One of the best books I've ever had in my entire life. And what it is a book just full of things that might be possible. Yeah, and you flick through it and it's brilliant. But anyway, the Dyson Sphere, he postulated that any civilization that can become technologically advanced enough would require to harvest as much energy from their star as possible. And the way to do that would be to deconstruct their planet and reconstruct it as a shell around the outside of a star,
Personally,
so as to give them the ability to do it. Now,
personally, though, if let's say humanity was doing that, I wouldn't take the Earth apart. I'd take Mars apart or something.
yes, now these days, what's more accepted is the possibility of a Dyson Sphere is creating a series of panels that are maybe connected, electromagnetically or via lasers or something.
Right. So what you're saying is there's a star out there with some big ass solar panels that have been built around it.
Yes, and it's an irregular shape, and it may even be under powered control.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is there's something weird out there. There's something going on,
I can't see it happening.
and it's something weird.
If you've got the technology to do something like that, surely you've got like fusion working.
There's three. But look. There's
But
three
if you
levels
get-
of civilization,
Right.
right? There's we're like even like a class 0, okay? So we can't even harness the entire energy requirement, entire energy of our planet, right? You then get a class 1 or something that can take the entire energy of their star, okay? And it goes right up to class 3 or something who can harness the entire energy of a galaxy. You know, when you're talking about fusion, yeah, that's all well and good for powering homes and stuff like that. But, you have 13.8 billion years of universe there. And humanity became technologically adept in about 3,000 years. We went from farming to doing what we did, iPads, right? So, that's a lot of billions of years there for other things to have happened. And if they've become technologically advanced, harvesting stars and more, if you're going to be doing big stuff, you need big energies. So, I'm fully on board that's...
Not going to throw being a pessimist out there, but I'm going to throw being a pessimist out there. That you hear some of the other scientists like Stephen Hawking and stuff talking about that, and it's like, by the time we see the light from that star, the chances are that anyone around it is possibly already dead, and the sun has possibly already collapsed.
Yes.
So...
Yes, that's true.
We're looking at history. We're not looking at real-time anything.
You're
so that
absolutely
may not
right.
Be there anymore.
Yes, but does it matter? Does it make it any less cool if that's what it actually is, or was even?
It sucks if it's like, confirmed extraterrestrial life. Let's send something out there really quickly. Oh, they're already dead.
Yeah, it would be totally sucky if 170 million years ago, during the time of the dinosaurs, that there was flourishing extraterrestrial life out there, and then a big ass gamma ray burst or something just wiped it all out. Now it's gone. Oh no,
We're sat there going,
this is it. We're it. We are the intelligence in the universe.
Oh my god!
And this is, and you're watching the pinnacle of it now here on BC4. Anyway, I just thought, I like the Weekender to be an educational show from time to time. So it's,
Even if it's an education in BS.
it's not BS. Every word of what I've said is almost true. Okay, so it's like, go look it up.
Every word was scientific fact.
Yeah, there's no evidence for any of this, but it is scientific fact, okay? Go and check out KIC 8462852, and you will see that I am not bullshitting.
is that what the Daily Mail's calling it?
Anyway,
It has been a big week for Star Wars fans, though.
Yes.
I was raving on about...
Most Star Wars fans felt a disturbance in the Force on Facebook this week.
They did.
Yes.
I was raving on, even before the week started, I was playing the Battlefront beta.
I'm watching...
And it got extended into the week by an extra day.
And then watching that glorious moment of Luke Skywalker getting stepped on by an AT-AT.
Yes, there is a class video where Luke's bouncing around all over the place and epic music, and his winging lasers away and blah blah blah, and he just charges in to kill someone, and 88 becomes.
Well, do you know what? Let's not discuss it. Let's watch it.
See what I'm talking about?
Okay, that is cool.
Crushed.
That is cool. Yeah. Anyway, we built Endor. We've been talking about it for a long time now, and we got some wonderful donations of X-Wing stuff from all over the world. In fact, in one of the boxes from a guy called Eddie Harrington over in Louisiana, not only did we get an amazing amount of X-Wing stuff, but we also got some awesome New Orleans food. We've got some Cajun food here. So we've got the black eyed peas and this Creole seasoning. So we haven't.
We do have a camera of some sort, I think.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
That's too close.
That's too close. There we go. That's it. The Creole seasoning. So.
Is this one from him too?
Yeah. And that's the black eyed peas. So we haven't eaten it yet. What?
Is it open?
No, it's not open.
Okay.
I'm not opening it until we're ready to actually to devour it and eat it. So it's sitting there ready for us to make some beans.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you haven't seen it, we have some pictures. Now, there's a particular picture I think you should start with.
I'll tell you what, you can control that now.
If we bring up the picture, there's a picture of the table which shows in its full glory before we go in and do any particular close-ups.
Yes.
Ta-da!
So the mission we set ourselves was that we wanted to create X-Wing, but we wanted to bring it down into the atmosphere, okay? Because every game of X-Wing that I've basically seen or played has always been kind of out in the middle of deep space or something like that. And, you know, I always wondered where X-Wing was going to be any good in the atmosphere. And in the new movies, we saw that they're awesome at flying over lakes. You know, so
we know that much now.
So we put this together, and you know, we decided, right, we need a kind of a plot line, which I have since been told is actually as close to a real plot line as you're likely to find, because it's in the comic books, the Shattered Empire comic books that are being released. There's a 4-part comic book series called Shattered Empire, and I'm told that this plot line that we came up with is actually very similar to a plot line in it.
Yeah.
And my thoughts were that after the Death Star was destroyed, the second Death Star over Endor, well, we know that most of the fleet, the Imperial fleet, was actually out of the Death Star because they were engaging the Rebel fleet at the time and winning. Okay? So I imagine that the losses were far heavier on the Rebel side than they were in the Imperial side at that stage.
As you've been describing, I've just been cycling through the images.
So I had this thought of, you know, well, what happens? You know, you're pilots of various craft. You've just seen the Death Star going. What would you do? Well, you would go to your backup rendezvous point, which we thought, right, there would be another base on the other side of Endor. Another secret hidden base, and that a lot of the Imperial pilots and stuff like that would try to make their way there and to regroup and to decide what's going to happen. Because there would still be potentially some form of chain of command in place. You know, when I was a child, I thought, that's it, it's over. You know, it's peace and Wookiees boogie and all that.
That's what's exciting about the new movies, is they're going to tell that story.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in books and stuff, but I never really got into reading books and things like that. For Star Wars, for me, it's the movies.
You never study.
I never studied. But like you say, as a kid, the Death Star blows up, Emperor dies.
That's it. It's over.
Hey, we've won. Big party.
But as you grow up and you start to realize that engagements like this are never as clean cut as that, you start to realize, oh, hang on a second, there would be a chain of command in place. There would be other bases, okay? And this is what we wanted to create. We wanted to create a mopping up scenario where you can see here where we have the Imperial base, where we have kind of various landing pads. We have a generator in there. We have towers. You can see the remainders of the AT-AT. What would that be? A fleet of AT-ATs, or what would that be called? A
herd.
A herd. Yeah, a herd of AT-ATs and ATSTs. So what we wanted to create was the mopping up exercise afterwards that would have taken place on Endor, where where rebel pilots and bombers would have then scanned the rest of the moon, because all the shields and most of the big shields would be down by this point. Scan the rest of the moon, discover these other secret bases, and then go in and try and mop them up.
Yeah.
So that was the plan, and then we had 1 day to execute it and do a live blog on it.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about actually putting all this table together and stuff, we have a live blog. We'll probably annotate the show. You can just link straight in. And a live blog on Beast of War, if you haven't been on one before, we're doing something in a day, and we're taking little micro videos. So videos are like 10 minutes long max, and we talk about we're like this one, for example. There's a wee planning session in the morning saying what we want to achieve, and then we move on to talking about bits and pieces like mats and all that we've gathered up, and then we move on to laying out trees and stuff.
Well, pull up some of the close-ups. Pull up a couple of the close-ups, and I'll talk through just some of the bits and pieces and what we used for them. So here you can see we have some Gale Force 9. The gun turret there is actually from Gale Force 9. Yeah, and the large building is actually a 28mm piece from MicroArt Studios. But whenever we looked at it carefully, we realized there was nothing on it to truly give it a scale of 28mm. So it actually worked beautifully in the X-Wing scale of 1 to 270 or 1 to 280, whatever the scale is. All these connecting tunnels that are connecting the various parts. So you can see there the power generator. That's actually from a company called Secret Weapon. And then these landing pads are actually repurposed generators from Quantum Gothic. And the Quantum Gothic stuff was beautiful. But we were able to reconfigure the parts in a different way, and we created these landing pads and also these kind of barracks type things that are up here.
And before anybody starts going, TIE fighters can't land, maybe they can't, but we didn't have time to sit and build support structures and all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah, whenever
so
you
open your mind.
Well, what's in this is there's some kind of anti-grav technology. These are very special landing pads for
very high tech
fighters.
stuff that we can't explain.
So it's the AT-ATs themselves came from an old model set, sort of like 20 odd years old.
You can just see one in the background. I think I've found a better picture.
And the AT-STs actually are Japanese imports of little together
blind bag toy things.
Yeah, they're little snap together AT-STs that we managed to find in Japan and import. And it's just, if you go and check out the live blog, we start from scratch. So basically, we talk about the idea we're trying to execute. We have a look at some mats. The mat that we've used here is a beautiful, beautiful mat from Deep Cut Studio. Highly, highly recommended. It just works so well.
Is this one of the ones we showed off in the show the last week?
Possibly.
I can't remember if we did it front stage or backstage, but I think we showed off one of these mats on the show last week.
The trees, like 99% of these trees are from foreground, so the foreground trees just suited this so well. And not only do we discuss how we're going to make the board and how we got on and how we found all the bits and pieces and put them together and painted them and put the whole thing together in a day, start to finish, done. But we also have some fairly in-depth videos there where we're discussing the special rules and how we're actually going to shape the mission. So the plan is that in a couple of weeks' time, as soon as we get a chance and get Killian back up and have some space in the schedule, that we're gonna play it out, and possibly if we can get the technology to work, play it out live, or at the very least play it out and film it and put it out. But I'm kind of more interested in playing it out live, to be honest, because it would be as much hassle to play it live as it will be to play it and record it. And at least if we're playing it live, you guys can feed back and direct into the whole show of it all. So
one of the things, though, if you watch the video, you see me and Killian are starting to talk about rules for turrets and stuff like that. I don't want to give it away. Go and watch the video. But one of the things I do want to say is we will possibly tweak it. And we're trying to tweak it in such a fashion that stuff dies.
Yes, you want stuff to die, and you want stuff to die easily.
Yes.
What we don't want is to bog the whole thing down, because we want to use a lot of miniatures. So I'm going to be talking to Killian about the introduction of squadrons and things like that, so that we can we can, activate in one miniature at a time, or maybe break them into battle groups or squadrons and activate squadrons of them at a time. And
Yeah.
there's a lot that I want to do, and the towers have to be effective. The AT-ATs have to feel like they're having an impact on the game. The ATSTs need to feel like they're having an impact on the game. And
Because one of the things in X-Wing is you can play, and it's a while before anybody's ships blow up. Unless you're the Empire, because your TIE fighters can get blown out of the sky pretty quickly. Yeah. But we want that epic cinematic moment of the rebels going in to attack this base. And if they attack the base and nobody dies, it's not very exciting. You don't watch Star Wars and go, they're going to attack Death Star, and nobody dies for half an hour. You're like, well, this isn't very interesting.
Well, the other thing is, I'm hoping that some of the guys from Fantasy Flight will be watching this and having a look at this, and accept my plea to say, create some ground units, but not infantry. I'm not interested in infantry, if I'm being honest, right? But do you see some of the cool ground vehicles and things like that?
Yeah.
And encourage more games of X-Wing taking place in the atmosphere, because this is just the first of a number of things I want to explore in Star Wars over the next 8 weeks or so, and then we have a boot camp right in the middle of it. But,
Please, for the love of God, pre-painted AT-ATs.
Yes.
I've had enough.
Well, John has to paint AT-ATs at every scale, though, so it's.
I wonder if we have other pictures.
You didn't see my comment, did you?
Oh, I did. Yes.
Someone put up saying, "Oh, look, John's having to paint AT-ATs again," and I just turned around and went, "It's as if one painter screamed out in terror and was drowned out under grey paint."
Yeah. It's it is just awesome, and I want to see more. I would love to see Fantasy Flight say, yeah, do you know what? Let's get some in-atmosphere games is what I'm after.
I brought this image up because you can just about see, if I go back to the main screen, is we got these other vehicles from Critical Mass Games or something.
Oh, yes, these here. So there's one right over in this corner.
I'm trying to find a better pick.
Now, you can maybe just about see them. And what they are, actually, is there is these kind of... You can see one right there just in front of the Falcon, okay? And what it is, it's they're vehicles from Critical Mass Games, but I repurposed them primarily as a piece of terrain to begin with, but as Imperial bulldozers.
Yeah.
Because, if you're going to have a base in Endor, you need some way of clearing the area. Yeah. And, so these vehicles, when I was rummaging for the stuff that we were going to use to build all this, I found these and I thought, these would make great Imperial bulldozers. I've got to do it. So,
but the reason I mention it is because I'm picking up on this thing you said. You don't really care about men.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind having troops of men, but they'd be very, very small.
It complicates things. Because then you're starting to create an actual ground battle game.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of vehicles and aircraft and stuff, but you get plenty of those Star Wars companion books.
Yeah.
I just read that and make all them weird tanks on big wheels and all that sort of stuff.
It's just armor. Because I thought about the ground troop aspect of it, but then you're creating a very different game. The X-Wing as it stands will quite happily handle what we have put together there.
Oh yeah.
We're not having to dramatically change the rules or anything. We're rebalancing some stuff and coming up with some stat lines. But this is a game of X-Wing. There's nothing majorly out of the box on this.
For example, we're using the flight path templates to move the ATSTs around. We've just said that any move that's a number 2, they basically do.
Yeah.
So it would be cool. I would like to see it. We also put some pics up on Facebook, and I was really excited to see one of the devs from DICE actually coming in.
Yeah, big thanks to we created a little video as well, because it is a kind of we've been inspired by Star Wars Battlefront to do this, and the Hoth and everything else, and we put out a cool little video just with the Imperial March theme and stuff like that there,
and loads of J.J. Abrams lens.
Yeah, and we got a wee message from Dennis Branville, and he's the lead level designer.
Yeah.
Within EA DICE. He's also a very keen wargamer, and it's we know about you. Yes, we've been looking into your background, but we want to just say
said is the force is strong with this.
Yeah, the force is strong with this one, and we just want to say thanks because he took it and he passed it in around the team in DICE there. So we're glad you guys enjoyed it and got a kick out of it, because we certainly did.
I do. I've been playing the beta. One thing I have a problem with is I find
feedback hour. Yeah,
I find myself saying to myself, the spawn camping is strong with this one, because you can get generated over and over again in the same place, and someone's just there. I find that quite aggravating.
Yeah.
Fix it, please.
Okay. Well, that's X-Wing. How about we tell them about some hubs, because then we've got some cool Kickstarters to talk about.
Absolutely.
Fight for the Iron Kingdoms as a warcaster. Take control of the mighty jacks, arcane devices, and dark sorceries to bring the fight to the War Machine Hub on beastsofwar.com. Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Okay, welcome back to probably one of our favourite parts of the show.
Yeah, it's
having a look at these Kickstarters.
This is, for me, the coolest part of the show these days. You know, because we're getting some really interesting Kickstarters coming through. First one, though, is an emergency Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one that I want to make sure that everybody is aware of, because if you're not, you're going to miss out. Okay, it finishes tomorrow, Sunday at 8 p.m. And
that is close.
Yeah, this is, of course, the Infinity role-playing game by Modiphius and Corvus Belli. Okay, so this is the official Infinity role-playing game. So there are some free quick start rules that you can download through DriveThruRPG.
Yeah.
And it'll give you an introduction to the new kind of 2D20 system that they've put together. There's a little adventure in there. There's 4 pre-gen characters, and basically an overview, a bit of a primer for the Infinity universe. The Kickstarter itself has been going great guns. You know, at the time we're putting this together, it's already reached like £250,000. You know, it was only trying to raise 25,000. It's 10 times. You know, it's 1,000% funded now.
Yeah, and that's pounds sterling. So I mean,
they've
it's doing very well.
They've unlocked book after book after book after book after book. It's like the whole of the Infinity world is going to make it into this RPG. And if ever there was a game that deserved or needed an RPG, or was a game that had the capacity for an amazing role-playing game, it was Infinity.
Yeah.
You know, Infinity's just been crying out for this.
Well, we have a little look at their vid.
Yeah.
That they have.
Yeah. Let's get a quick look at it.
Hi, this is Chris from Modiphius. Some time ago I discovered the world of Infinity and it just screamed role-playing game. So we spent a lot of time developing it, and now we've come to Kickstarter to fund a beautiful core book and a range of supplements. Now you're going to be able to expand your adventures with the official role-playing game that's going to take you deep into the never-before-seen depths of the Infinity universe. Playtested over 9 months with hundreds of people, it's been supported by a passionate global community. Infinity started as the homemade role-playing adventures of the Corvus Belli team before it evolved into the amazing miniatures game.
So there's their little video clip. One of the interesting things they say in the video that Infinity actually started out as an RPG among the developers.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the interesting points. And when you look at Infinity, it's always looked like something that has an RPG feel to it.
Yeah.
For example, you get war games and stuff out there, right? But Infinity is on a different level. Not rules-wise and stuff. It's great rules and all that. I'm not saying the rules are bad, but I mean image-wise. The imagery and stuff that they have, you just look at it and go, you guys are doing a lot more imagery than your average war gamer do, apart from Games Workshop and their 40k stuff. And then you look at the artwork and go, perfect to take all that artwork and roll it into a role-playing game universe.
Well, some of the stretch goals that I'm hoping are knocked down by now. The next big one was at 269,000. It's a good one. You'll love this.
Yeah.
Tag warfare.
Yes.
So, so everything you need in a book to pilot tags and go to war in tags. I think that's really cool. And then at the 275k mark, there's a whole additional campaign called the Acheron Cascade. Okay,
Right.
and it's where is it? Set in Paradiso.
Yeah,
it's set in Paradiso, where you're basically going to be exploring and uncovering some kind of mystery of some sort. It's fabulous. You know, it's a game that thoroughly deserves it, and it's a game that can execute it so well because it has all the artwork, as Lloyd says. It has some of the best writers in the business. You know, Gautier, the lead designer within Corvus Belli, I'm sure he's going to be up to his neck involved in all of this because nothing happens in Infinity without Gautier having a say in it and an overview of it. So
he's in the video that we watched.
Yes.
He's sitting there at a table. He's obviously one of the guys that come up with the RPG version of Infinity before it became a miniatures game. I see there are other stuff like the social goal to unlock.
Yes,
That's
they've been doing
interesting.
some social goals, you know, where people tweeting and stuff like that there. So one of the social goals is that they're going to produce, what is it, like 10,000 little free booklets, free intros that they're going to be giving away at conventions and RPG days and things like that throughout 2016. So, yeah, it's a fabulous Kickstarter, but it would be lovely to see it fully funded. You want to see them unlock everything.
Yeah.
You know, because imagine being on the receiving end of that Kickstarter, where over the course of the next year or however long it takes them to deliver it, and you know, Modifius, the guys behind this, are seasoned deliverers of Kickstarters now. Yeah. They've done a vast number of RPGs and board games. They know their stuff. They know how to execute. They know how to deliver. But imagine being on the receiving end of that, of every now and again, another tranche of big, beautiful Infinity books arrives with all of the RGP goodness inside.
And we've met Chris, haven't we?
Yes.
Chris Birch.
Yes, we have. Yeah, great guy, and runs a good company.
I think we might have a designer interview or something in the backstage with Chris, or maybe that one went out front stage. I remember when we were in London, we basically dropped into a random centre or something, and we got catch up with him on one of his projects. So nice guy, seems to get focused in on what he's doing. So I wouldn't be surprised if this kept going and going and going.
Yeah, it's a good one. So one to watch, guys. If you're watching this and it's not Sunday 8 p.m. yet, head on over and get stuck in. Right, I have another one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this one's a little more different. This is called the World's Fair 1893. Okay.
The World's Fair.
The World's Fair 1893. Now, first things first. Here's a little video clip for you.
Millions came to Chicago to see the world's greatest achievements in technology, culture, and entertainment. From the exhibits in the beautiful White City buildings to the fun attractions on the Midway, this grand exposition was a wonder to behold. World's Fair 1893 is a new strategy board game from publisher Foxtrot Games and designer J. Alex Kevern. Acting as organizers of the fair, players work to gain influence and obtain the grand exhibits that will be put on display. On your turn, send a supporter to one of the 5 areas and collect all the cards there. Choose carefully to collect the cards you need and also beat out your opponents for control in the various areas. Collecting main exhibits could earn you the most prestige, but only if you have the supporters you need in the matching area to get the exhibits approved into the fair. Call in favors from some of the country's most influential figures to increase your influence in the areas and help you approve the exhibits you've already collected. Tickets for the fun and popular Midway attractions generate much of the profit for the fair, so be sure to collect these tickets to move the fair and the game forward. World's Fair 1893 will be the third game from Foxtrot Games, but this grand exposition won't begin without your help. Check out the campaign page, back to get the game at a great value, and help us make World's Fair 1893 a reality.
Well, this is the week we really needed Justin, okay? Because
I was thinking that when I was watching it, because I would have turned around and say, well, Justin, it'd probably helped if you could have been there. And he'd be like, aye, that would have helped.
Yeah, Justin loves his whole steampunk and stuff like that there. So that whole period of 1893, Justin enjoys the whole gentlemanly kind of thing. Now, I gotta say, right, I'm a bit in two minds about this game, okay? Because when the video started and I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, this looks lovely. Oh, this is really nice. And then I saw the board, and I looked at the board and I thought, oh, what a total disappointment. It's like, I love the art direction until I just do not like the design of the board.
But it's a management game again, and sort of structuring things.
But
it's not like it's going to look like a fairground.
No, but it could look more like they talk about the 5 zones of the World Fair, okay?
Yes.
And then they have the Ferris wheel in the middle, but the board itself is so plain. They could have made it look more like the zones in the World's Fair that you were likely to see.
More like the actual layout.
Yeah, the other thing is, I know we talked about the dinosaur bone gathering board game last week.
Yeah, which we thought was sweet.
And it used little wooden components, and I was talking about how in that instance, I really liked the little wooden components, and it had much more elegance than if they'd made little plastic bones and stuff like that.
Yes.
I hate the components in this.
But why?
Those big wooden blocks are. There's something
What's
really.
the difference, right?
There's something really clumsy about the look of the game when it's on the table.
Well, what's the difference? Last week we had wooden blocks of different colours.
Yes, elegant wooden blocks.
This week we have wooden blocks of different colours.
Clumsy wooden blocks.
So what you're saying is they've made the wooden blocks slightly too big.
Yes, they've made them too big. The game looks clumsy. I'm being critical from an aesthetic point of view here, but with the beauty of the artwork, the beauty of the art direction, the beauty of the cards, because the cards are a beautiful looking thing. Just the look of it on the table, it looks clumsy. And it shouldn't look clumsy. It should look elegant.
But what are they supposed to do then, if they don't do the wooden blocks? Or you're just saying they should have done the wooden blocks, but just not as chunky?
Well, what I'm hoping is that that they can get to a funding level where they can revisit the design. 1893. We're back in the stylish era, right? Everything had a sense of style. Men wore hats, women wore corsets. It was all about presentation and stuff like that, especially at the World's Fair. There was an ornateness to it.
Yeah, because when they were building, like, structures and stuff,
yeah,
like even train stations here, even now have all these weird spiral patterns and all in the ironwork.
Exactly.
And it's just something to hold the roof up.
Yeah. Whereas this looks like they've taken a beautiful game and shoved it into Minecraft. And it does. It does. I'm disappointed because I think mechanics-wise it might be pretty good. I'm looking forward to beating off my opponents. Stop giggling. But the execution of the actual game itself.
You get to beat them off in 5 different places.
You do get to beat them off in 5 different places. So you get to move around the World's Fair and beat them off.
It's not the real core of what we should be talking about here. Does it sound fun to organise a World's Fair?
Yes. Yes, that's as much fun to me as managing an airline on a board game or digging for dinosaur bones. I like these quirky, interesting, different games.
It's a bit hard to wrap your head around. right? When you say dinosaur hunting game, I know what that means.
It's a dinosaur bone. It's a paleontology game.
I know what that means. And when
Yeah.
running an airline, I can imagine what that means. Organising a World's Fair, I'm like, that's a bit more...
To be fair, we have organised several boot camps by
Yes.
this point, and you haven't sat there and went, "Oh my God, there's so much to do."
Yeah.
Well, no, that's maybe the problem. Maybe we get big wooden blocks to help us organise our boot camps.
Maybe it's one of those games that has so much right that the bit that galls me, the bit that really kind of jars with me, is I can't tell whether that was a deliberate design decision, that in other words they designed it because they wanted it to look like that, or whether there was budget or time constraints and they ended up with it looking like that.
But it's
You know,
cubism, Warren.
It's horrible. it's horrible. It's a game that is let down
It's
by
not
that
horrible.
final presentation.
I think horrible is a very strong way to describe
No, it's
it.
a brilliant game. If the designer of the game is watching this, love what you're trying to do here. But with the moment I saw what that game looked like on the tabletop, I was repulsed. Okay? Because it should look elegant. It should have a sense of style about it that just exudes the World's Fair 1893.
You've sunk a little bit, because after you watched the video, you went, "I was disappointed," and you finished this segment off by going, "I was repulsed." What is it?
It's just, I just want to see it fulfill what it could potentially be. I think it's so close, but to have them big gammy blocks.
I don't
was
think
like,
it's fair
ugh.
to say we should be repulsed by something that hasn't funded yet.
I'm not saying you should be repulsed by it. I'm saying I was repulsed by it. This is just my opinion, and opinions are like articles. Everyone's got one, and that happens to be mine. Are we going to have to beep this? But this is the thing. It's only my opinion. But I wonder how many other people, when they watched it, saw the intro, thought, "Oh, this is interesting," then saw the actual layout of the board and went, "Ugh,"
I think you'll be...
and then saw the cards and went, "But they're so nice. This is all so well put together." But then that board is just so clumsy looking.
functional.
Perhaps it doesn't
clumsy.
rely on the board as much as the video made it look like.
I like board games to be elegant, and there's something to be said.
I
for
don't know. Maybe the proof's in the pudding when you actually see it in reality.
Maybe.
Here's a point. We had one a couple of weeks ago, Argo. Remember the one that said we were talking about standees? And then they went on to do models the day after we...
Oh, did they
sorted
go
out.
on?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of comments that said Argo are making miniatures now, and we were like, well, we can't say no to something until they've funded and know what direction they're going in.
That's
Anyway.
strange, because our whole thing about Argo was we were
like
triumphing not
we were in the corner of the little guy going, don't be pressured into miniatures.
supporting them that they didn't need miniatures.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that they need miniatures. I'm just suggesting that they need to relook at the overall aesthetic of the board, because the cards and all are lovely. Just relook at the aesthetic of the board to try and make something, because that board jars me. It jars me out of the vibe of the game.
Okay.
So,
Right.
13 days left. Go and check it out. So,
About 13 days left.
and if you disagree, fight your corner in the comments. Fight for the game. If you love it, if you love what you see, fight for it in the comments, because it's only my opinion.
Okay, let's move us on. We have another one.
Oh.
And this one surprised the heck out of me.
Oh, right.
It's insane.
Right, okay, look, this one is called Scythe. It's an alternate history mech board game, 21 days left. And before I say another word, you have to watch this.
The ashes from Europa's Great War still darken the snow in the isolated patch of land around the factory. It was here that monstrous mechs were once forged. But after the war, the factory closed its doors, its foundries falling silent. Across Eastern Europa, leaders sent living legends towards the factory to explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. Inside, 2 to 5 players each receive a random pairing of a faction mat and a player mat to maximize replayability and asymmetry. The faction mat gives you a special skill, starting military strength, and 4 mechs, each with a unique ability that applies to all of your mechs and your character. Your player mat represents the economy of your growing empire. As you upgrade, build, enlist, and learn from the factory, your costs decrease and your benefits increase. All resources are kept on and spent from territories you control on the board. Combat is driven by players' decisions and cunning, not randomness, with the winner forcing the losing units to retreat. Just as important as engagement between players is how you choose to interact with the people of the land. Through choices on encounter and objective cards, you seek to not only be rich and powerful, but also popular. Join us on this journey of farming and war, broken hearts and rusted gears, innovation and valor. Join us for Scythe.
Roar! Farming and war! This is everything you want. This is absolutely everything you want.
You don't hear that as a strapline very often.
No,
Yeah.
farming and war.
Farming and war in the box. What a beautiful, beautiful game. Now,
I'm really surprised by that game because it's only been, at the time we're filming, on Kickstarter about 2 days.
yeah, and it's like nearly 800,000.
It's like, what the heck?
Sometimes you get something that is just very, very special. But this game, the specialness about this goes back quite a while. Back in about a year ago, there's an artist called Jacob Rosalski. Okay, he's a Polish artist, and he launched I think it was an exhibit, an art exhibition. Okay. Where it was scenes from the 1920s. So it was based on the Polish-Soviet War, okay? In 1919 to 1921 or something like that, or 23.
Ish.
And what he did was he took all these rural scenes and he reimagined them with big mechs, big hulking
things,
mechs.
yeah.
So it's like looking at a constable, but with a huge mech in the back. So it's all these kind of rural scenes. You know, Constable, the artist, you know, you had the kind of the horse and cart with all the hay on the back and stuff like that.
But behind that is a giant.
But behind that is a giant mech looming over the trees like a humongous Ed 209. So he launched this, and it became really, really popular. And you know, a lot of the blogs and stuff like that covered it. And now we're seeing that artwork, that vision, being turned into a game. Now they seem to be generalizing it somewhat, because you know, in the video they're talking about Europa and stuff like that. There, so they're not taking the Soviet-Polish War, which for me is a little regrettable, because I would have liked it to have that little bit more gritty stance in realism.
Yes,
you know,
but would that not have hemmed it into particular players, rather, when they've broken out into this Europa? It's like conquer all of Europe type thing going on.
I mean, they say, you know, it's set in the 20s, so it's post World War One. So as soon as you say
Is it
the
set-
Great Europa War, you can just go, World War One.
Yeah,
I'm in the zone now.
it's only a personal preference in that I would have liked to have seen it have a bit more, be maybe a little bit more true to the artist's original vision. Now it might be exactly. Again, it's difficult to tell sometimes from Kickstarters and stuff like that. You know, so maybe his vision is not as I have seen it. You know, but for me, it's just a personal thing. I would have liked to have been a bit more anchored in a point of realism, and then take it from there. When it starts to talk about Europa and whatnot, I don't know. It starts to feel a bit Command and Conquer to me. Do you know what I mean? Where
yeah,
you know,
I get
it's
But it is, because when I watched the video about Scythe, I was looking at it going, it's an RTS.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not like because in the video it's talking about when you invade somewhere, it's your actions and what you decide to do that makes the result. It's not like Risk where you roll dice. There's nothing random to this.
Yeah.
There's nothing random in an RTS. You make things, well, obviously the results of who shoots who, blah blah blah. But I mean, you're laying down the strategy. You're making the decisions. You're not just rolling dice to say, did I win?
Yeah. Well, talking from a mechanics point of view, you know, they classify it as an asymmetrical game. So that asymmetrical game means that there's a big dollop of randomness at the start whenever you pass out. What is it? You pass out armies and countries.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you're going to get. Basically, they're difficult to balance, that type of game. Okay, because you don't know what you're going to get. It's really Forrest Gump, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get.
That's what was coming into my mind.
But there is a balancing issue there. So we will see how they get on with the balancing of an asymmetrical game. But asymmetrical games, if they get it right, creates a huge amount of replayability. But again, it's one of those games. I'm not going to be playing it every weekend. This is one of those games that if it's executed right, I'll be pulling it out a couple of times a year, to enjoy it and play it. So I don't need as much replayability as what people might think. Now maybe other people feel differently about that.
It's kind of Weird World War though, isn't it? So we should get.
Well,
John,
it's Weird
John, what's your
World War
opinion on
One.
this? Because it's Weird World War. What's your opinion on this, Dylan?
Oh God, not this again. Stop looking at me like that.
We haven't put you on the spot also.
Come on,
know you
John.
haven't.
John, what do you think?
It just more feels like, do you know, like the Great Depression in America? You know, the stock crash, and it feels like all the different countries in Europe are trying to scramble to get themselves back on their feet with a bit more prowess than their neighbour, that sort of thing. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, in fact, it's so rural and it looks so old-fashioned. It actually reminds me of Northern Ireland in
Last year,
1992. There's a little village called Balahi. Look it up. It feels like Balahi to me. It's like a little tiny place trapped in a bubble of time that it's still 100 years in the past. I love it. But the thing that sets it apart, you've got to say, its number one strength is Jacob's artwork. Yeah. Jacob's artwork, it just
everything.
It just makes it, and this is why I think so many people are buying into it, because they're not buying a game.
Right.
They're buying a piece of art.
They're buying a beautiful product.
They are buying a piece of art. I think this is. I think this even elevates beyond product now. I think this is a piece of art that people are buying.
I think I'm going to have another look at this because I'm just not sold on it. I was looking at it and going, what? $785,000 in 2 days? How is this even possible? I was looking at the game going, it looks nice-ish. What's going on here? I don't know what's necessarily drawn people. Well, you're saying it's the artwork's drawn them.
Yeah, it is.
I want to own a copy of it.
It's the artwork. It's pictures of dudes and dudettes loading hay into hay bales and onto the backs of old wooden carts.
I think it's the mechs.
And then this big mech looming in the background.
I don't like these supersized mechs.
Oh, I love supersized mechs.
For example, Dreadnoughts and all in 40k, look at them, they're cool. And then you bring out these Warhounds and stuff, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm looking at it going, is it getting into the realms of stupidness now?
No, you're nutters. you have a brain failure there, Lloyd. The supersized mechs are the most awesome of awesome. It's like that moment in the Avengers, okay, when they're on the aircraft carrier. Mm-hmm. And and it takes off.
You better put some breathing masks on.
We're going underwater. That's good. Oh well, no, we're not actually. No,
this is much worse.
The scale of that, when you think, it's even if you saw a real aircraft carrier, in real life, and you look at it and you go, how did we even build something like that? I
don't like it. There's a point where big stompy feet were just going to squish into the ground constantly, and everywhere you go, you're going to leave massive feet prints.
And who cares? It's a machine of war.
Let's look at it. Farming and war. As a farmer, I'd be pretty peeved off if you walked through my field with that big mech, and then I went, where did all my crops go?
Yeah, and do you know what I'd do? I'd squish you.
What about all the farmers in World War One?
Yep.
That lost trillions of acres to artillery.
We were talking about Star Wars. We've got AT-ATs in that, right?
Yes.
They're not.
They're one of the original amazing mechs.
Yeah, but
they're enormous.
Yeah, they're enormous, but they're not as astronomical looking as these things. These things look ginormous.
No, AT-ATs.
An AT-AT has 4 legs, so it needs smaller feet.
I'm going to turn around and say AT-ATs were probably limited by the skill of the model builders at the time with the materials they had available.
Yeah, they would have made them bigger if they could have.
Yeah.
They would have.
What I was going to say...
you look at the Death Star,
and
you look at the Super Star Destroyer. The Empire wasn't afraid to think big, Lloyd. And those AT-ATs came down in a deployment vehicle that actually dropped 4 of them at a time.
Where are you going with this? I'm just saying, I don't like the supersized mech on 2 feet thing.
Yes, and you're wrong. It's just awesome. It is just utterly awesome. I'm going to have to find some way to subliminally reprogram your mind, because you're letting us down badly here.
I don't have a problem with mechs. Dust's full of mechs on 2 feet. What I have a problem with is a mech that's 20 times the size of what a mech should be.
Yeah, do you know what I think what's going to happen here, right? The same thing that happened with the Tau. Oh, I don't like all the big models in 40K until one came out for the Tau, and I think I now like the big models in 40K. He's going to sit there saying I don't like the big mechs. Paolo Parente is going to go off and make this huge dust mech based on the Leopold or the Mouse or something like that. And then Lloyd's going to come back and say, well, I love big mechs. So it's like
I love big mechs and I don't know why.
I really, really can't deny.
We should get Parente to put it on a plinth as well and see if he can actually
yes,
sell it.
we'll get you a big mech on a plinth, and that's it. You'll be totally recovered.
Right. What I was going to say, the artwork reminds me of. I'm going to throw a tank spin onto this.
Oh, fantastic!
Seriously.
Let's hear this.
Didn't see that coming.
No.
Not at all, right? Not at all. When the tanks came out in World War I, nobody knew what the hell they were looking at when these things appeared.
Yeah.
When they were sent back to like London and stuff like that, everyone was watching these things in the street going, I never knew we could build things so big, and all this sort of stuff. But that's part of the Industrial Revolution. That's a military result of that. So what I think is...
Which then went on to become the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Or the military-industrial congressional complex, as we recently discovered.
Yeah. So...
Okay, keep going.
So I like to think that Jacob's art is sort of that impressionist's view of the Industrial Revolution becoming militarized.
You've nailed it. He's nailed it. Because what he's saying is that what Jacob's art is is evoking in you a sense of surprise that we couldn't achieve now if we saw one of the World War I tanks rolling through a field back in 1918 or 19 or whatever. You would look at that now and you couldn't feel that sense of awe that people at that time would have felt. So in order to evoke that sense of awe in us, he's had to scale it up and turn it into something that just makes you stop and look at the picture. And I can't take my eyes off the pictures the art that he's developed. I just think it's fabulous. I think it's fabulous, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. Very interested to see where it goes. Congratulations, Jacob. Your success in this one is well deserved.
Cool. Well, I think I'll have another look at it and see what you guys are talking about. I mean, I've looked at it, but I'll see if it can win me over with a second look. Yeah. Anyway, I think
now if we can get big mechs for the World's Fair, Rory.
I think that's bringing us to the end of the show.
It is. We're done. We're dusted.
If you've been enjoying that, we do another show on a Sunday called The Weekender XLBS. It's another version of the show. It's not an extended version.
I have some really good Kickstarters for that show to tell you about. Yeah, I've got a couple of blinders Kickstarters to tell you about tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So if you're interested, come on over to Beast of War. Make an account. Hopefully you'll join Backstage. There's a 7-day free trial that can take.
Yeah, there's a 7-day free trial. Basically, you can create a free account on Beast of War, and that gets you into the forums, commenting, stuff like that. But then we have Backstage, which is how Beast of War keep the lights burning. We couldn't do what we do without the Backstage membership. It's a small monthly fee, £3.79 a month, less than the price of a mag. You get video content all week long. You get the whole back catalogue of video content and stuff we've got there. So the cool thing about it is you get a whole other version of this show, which is called XLBS. And in many ways, it's even more interesting in this show because we get to let our hair down a little bit.
You get all a little bit more relaxed.
Yes, just so we can get a little bit more chillaxed because we're among our backstagers. But we'd love to have you over, and like I said, I've got a couple of blinding Kickstarters I want to talk about tomorrow morning. So
okay, well, if that interests you, we hope to see you on the show tomorrow.
Take care, guys.
Progress comes to a world of magic as science and the arcane combine to make marvels. Meet steampunk inventors and orc mystics at the Volsung Hub on beastsofwar.com. Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game.